Almost 2 hours of zombies cut content. Let's go. Now, World at War was originally supposed to have a DLC 4, and it was supposed to contain 3 maps. One of them, which you probably all know, Kino der Toten.
Best zombies map of all time. Kino der Toten Black Ops 1.
But it was also supposed to have Coast and Paris. But due to the fact that Black Ops 1 needed more people working on it, and also that DLC 4 would have dropped way too close to Modern Warfare 2's release, they ended up canceling it and pushing everything on to Black Ops 1. So the theater map eventually became Kino der Toten, Coast eventually became Call of the Dead, and the Paris map got switched up to be Moon. And the reason for that switch up is because they wanted to end off Black Ops 1 on a really high note, and they thought, what's a higher note to end off on than going to the moon? And if you ever wondered what the Paris map would have been like, here's an interview that Johnny J did with Jason Blundell where he kind of explains how the Paris map would have worked out.
We were starting to write stuff for a DLC 4 at the time as well, so create stuff as well. And that's where you'll hear about like Paris and Coast and a cinema, and that got re-adopted into Kino, and then the Coast map got turned into Call of the Dead, and then the Paris map got turned into Moon.
I've heard about that. I guess the Moon in the early stages was Paris, and then it got reworked into being on the moon.
Well,
how do you make that jump?
So they you know, and it was a fantastic team. You know, it was a different kind of group of guys, but a fantastic team took it, and then just certain of the little ideas got moved. And I don't want to say it was just Paris, because it wasn't. Paris is a very different map, but Paris had the idea of a no man's land, and it had the Eiffel Tower, and then underneath that was a teleporter, and then there was the catacombs of Paris underneath that, and the idea was that you went into the kind of teleporter, and the Eiffel Tower was essentially a conduit for the power for it, and then you got transported to this middle of nowhere where the Pack-a-Punch was, and it was just zombies all coming at you, and there was no cover, and it was brutal.
So would say the zombies all coming at you, would that maybe be reworked into like the no man's land we had in Moon?
Yeah. So that was that idea that kind of moved over.
Now you can get little snippets of all these maps in World at War. You can see them on the Der Riese chalkboard. You can see images for Paris and Call of the Dead, and you can also see more hints of them when you take the teleporter on Der Riese and some of the images that pop up. Now, speaking of Coast and Call of the Dead, this is somewhat related to that. There was also a cut zombie called the Engineer, who was going to behave very similar to George Romero. There are scripts referring to him being calm and angry, very similar to George Romero. He was supposed to be in Kino der Toten, but because Kino never came out in World at War, it got pushed back to Black Ops 1, and then he was eventually axed in Kino on Black Ops 1 and got shoved aside to Dead Ops Arcade. Now you can see this Engineer zombie in some World at War custom zombie maps. If you remember this legendary Vanoss gaming clip, yes, the big guy is the Engineer.
What the f is that? Kill it! Get! Run! Oh my god, he's so fat! I'm dead!
Oh my god! He's so big! Where is he?
Now, those weren't the only maps that were supposed to be in World at War. On an Xbox 360 demo disc for World at War, it was found out that there are hints to 3 other maps that might have taken place in World at War. You would have had Nazi Zombie Macon, Nazi Zombie Farm, and Farmhouse. Nazi Zombie Macon was listed alongside Nacht der Toten and Verrückt and Farm, which would indicate that it was either supposed to release originally with Nacht der Toten or also on DLC 1. And I would lean more towards the DLC aspect, because Nacht der Toten in and of itself was originally just supposed to be an Easter egg for completing the campaign. And Verrückt is kind of really where the whole zombie thing got started. And it seems like to me that Macon eventually ended up becoming Shinonuma, because if you go back and play that mission in the campaign, in the background there are swamps and huts that are the same assets used from the campaign in Shinonuma Zombies, so it seems like they just transformed Macon into Shinonuma. And Nazi Zombie Farm and Farmhouse could possibly be the same thing, just at an earlier version, and these two ended up getting axed and ended up coming back later for Farm in Black Ops 2. There was also a cutout game mode called Payload, where players would have to escort a payload under a timed pressure around the map, and it seems like because of the files that there would have been a dedicated map specifically for this game mode. The objective, escort the payload, you had a zombie timer, you would fail the mission if you did not kill enough zombies, and if you completed it, you have become the Master of Unlocking, which is a reference to the Resident Evil series where the protagonist Jill Valentine is jokingly called this earlier in the first game, where after that it became a running gag in the entire franchise. Now this did get cut from World at War, but it eventually did return in the form of Easter egg steps. If you go play Gorod Krovi, there is an escort mission where you have to escort a Valkyrie drone and the Russian Mangler, and it also made an appearance in Outbreak, where one of the objectives is to escort a recon drone. Now, probably the most known piece of cut content would be the Ammo-Matic perk, which originally was supposed to make its first appearance in Shi No Numa. Now, not too much is known about this, but the rumors going around, and I definitely remember hearing this from back in the day, is that it would cost a minimum of 10,000 points and it would spawn in a max ammo for you. And also going along with the Ammo-Matic perk, each character had their own unique dialogue to go with it.
Max ammo machine. Ah, genius.
Ammo machine! What a wonderful idea!
Ah, this is a blessing from the Emperor! An ammo machine! What a brilliant idea!
Also, speaking of dialogue, there are also some unused quotes from each character that pertain to the randomness of the Perca-Cola machines in Shi No Numa.
Oh, no, that's freaking fair, ain't it?
I wonder which one it will be this time.
It will become the machine it is supposed to become. What's it going to be this time?
And speaking of the perk machines, all of these perk machines were originally supposed to have a more swampy look to them. And the reason this was not put onto the map was because, from what I could tell, they wanted the perk machines to stand out and not just look like something you would see in the background. So unfortunately, we never got to see this badass perk swamp camo. But if you do have plutonium, there is a mod that you can get that will allow these perk machines to look how they originally intended. In Shi No Numa, there are also tons of traps that never made it into the final cut. There is a guillotine trap that would block off certain parts of the map, and it would lock the player in a limited area if you weren't careful enough. And each character did have their own unique dialogue for said trap.
Bullshit! Damn, I gotta move fast. Of course this is now in my way. I should probably get out of the way. I was not fast enough. I need to get through this quickly.
I was not fast enough! I must move quickly, before it closes!
There was also the barrel trap, which was a fire-based trap. A little less information is kind of known about this, but this could have come back in multiple different ways because we've seen so many different fire traps throughout the years.
I'm gonna make a pile of maggot ash. Ah, good. I won't have to use my vodka. They will all burn.
They will all burn!
We also have the battery, which is an electric-based trap, and this one honestly could have just been a different name for the current electric trap that's in Zombies. And again, we've seen so many electric traps further in Zombies that they could have easily have changed this into multiple different ones.
Amp it up! This will take care of them. This will take care of them.
Oh, this is going to be so fun!
And last but not least, there was the chopper, which chopped the zombies, and this one did come back in a form in Black Ops 2.
Chop and fly, freak bags! All chopped up and everywhere to go. They will be cut into 1,000 pieces!
They will be cut into 1,000 pieces! Yay!
And the thing that I found funny is that there's a safe version of the Swamp Guillotine block voice line, which was meant to be used if the player had graphic content restricted in their game settings.
Come on!
Now, continuing on with the trend of unused voice lines, there are tons in Der Riese. There are a lot of unused voice lines from 5 different actors portraying the 4 different characters. And I'm just taking a shot in the dark here, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that these were just placeholder lines until they can get the actual voice actors into the recording studio. I know this happens a lot in game development before they actually do get the VAs in. Some people will just record random lines, that way they can just use them as placeholders until they get the actual voice actors. So me knowing absolutely nothing, I'm going to take a shot in the dark here and say that's what happened.
Damn, that only counts as half a kill.
Gotta link up this terraformer, teleporter.
Richthofen, go figure that machine out. I have to take a shit.
I'm not sure I can make it to the mainframe in time.
Oh, good, it is still here. I mean, oh, what could this be?
There also may have been a cut area in Der Riese to the left of the Bowie knife. There's also a floating block of wall that's shaped very similar to the wall barrier in the help room in Nocturne Toten. So earlier in the map development, this could have been another room, but they ended up scrapping it before the map dropped. Also, a lot of people might know about this one is the zombie mode or the brains weapon that you get in Zombies. There was a lot of script related to the zombifying of the player, which was a feature that ended up getting cut before the final version of the game. It would give the player the brains weapon and set their movement to 30%, cause all zombies to ignore them, and when the player is killed as a zombie, they are downed and presumably could be revived by other players. And of course, we did end up seeing something very similar to this in Black Ops 2 when we eventually got Grief Mode. There was also hints of crawler rounds, which seemed to be very, very similar to dog rounds, happening every 4 to 6 rounds. And this could mean a couple of different things. It could mean like actual like crawlers that you get from like grenades, or it could have been Nova crawlers, because as we all know, Kino der Toten was supposed to take place in World at War, but eventually got pushed to Black Ops 1. And during my snooping, I found this. I don't know how accurate it is because I've never seen this image before in my life, but it seems to be a cut Nova crawler design for World at War. And to give that a little bit of credence, in World at War you can also see images of the early designs for the Nova crawlers, especially when you're teleporting and when you look around Derice. So the crawler round could have been hinting at that, or it literally could have meant like crawling zombies on the floor. There was also an unused animation for Hellhounds that would have them hop over the walls, which would have been terrible because Hellhounds are already overpowered in World at War. I don't need them being any stronger. And speaking of Hellhounds, there might have been a new way for Hellhounds to spawn. I found this image that seemed to suggest that the Hellhounds would come out of this little blood red gate instead of spawning in how they normally do, but other than this image and a short explanation about it, I couldn't find much else on this. And also because Kino was supposed to be in World at War, there was also going to be the auto turret that you see in Kino der Toten, but since we never got DLC 4, it never made its appearance in World at War and was eventually pushed back into Black Ops 1. Now there are a ton of weapons that ended up not making it into zombies, and just to name a few, you have the Walther, you have the Mosin Nagant, you have the Springfield, you have the double barrel shotgun, which did get pretty close to being into Derice and eventually even got a Pack-a-Punch name, the Snuff Box. You also have the default weapon, which isn't really cut content, it's mainly just used for developers. And there's also a lot of other weapons that got cut from World at War in general and not just zombies. So I'm going to assume that if these things were actually implemented into World at War, that they probably would have found their way into zombies. And just to name a few, you had the Sten, you had the Bren, you had the Lee Enfield, you had the PPS-43, and you had the Grease Gun. And a lot of those were from a scrapped British campaign, so that's why a lot of them were British. And looking through all the game files, there's also mention of a Dirty Harry pistol, which is a 1911 that shoots explosive bullets. Now you might be wondering, that sounds a lot like the C3000 Biatches. You would be correct. The Dirty Harry is actually from the Suicide King death card. When you go down, you pull out your pistol and it shoots explosive bullets. And it seems like they brought that over, put it into zombies, and renamed it the C3000 Biatches. And lastly, about the whole gun thing, there was also a potato, but that could have just been a leftover asset from COD 3. I don't think they were ever planning on putting a potato as a weapon in zombies. And kind of similar to the whole weapon thing, you were also at one point going to be able to purchase mortars off the wall for 2,000 points, and they would have behaved very, very similar to how they did in the campaign. And I'm kind of glad they didn't put these in the game because this was before PhD Flopper, and I 100% would have killed myself time and time again with these. Also in Shi No Numa, it seemed like there was going to be a mystery wall buy. There are references to it in the code along with this picture that seem to suggest that if you bought it, it maybe just gave you a random weapon. I have no idea how much it would have cost, but it would have been interesting. And continuing with the whole weapons theme, if you no-clip out of Verrückt, you can find a mountable MG42 right here on the fountain. And if you no-clip underneath the map and you come over to this area, you can also find a bunch other mountable machine guns. I don't think Treyarch ever really intended to put these actually in the game. They could just be leftover assets from campaign, because majority of zombie maps back in the day were just sections of the campaign and multiplayer that they turned into a zombie map. And to end it off here, there are two jingles that never made it into the final version of Zombies. One was the alternative Juggernog theme song. Now, unfortunately, I can't play the full thing because of copyright, but I can play you a couple seconds of it. I will leave a full link to it in the description, and it's not too bad. Like, it kind of fits with Jug, but I do like the original just a little bit more. And lastly, there is a jingle for Pack-a-Punch. This was actually discovered a couple years ago. This remained hidden for a very, very long time, and very similar to Jug. I can't play the full thing for you because of copyright, so I will leave a link to it down there below, and I can only give you a couple seconds.
Here, there, seems like everywhere, nasty things are happening, and now everyone is scared.
There was a cut chainsaw weapon called the Sabertooth that was planned to be put into Zombies, and it would have had a very, very large magazine size of 999 and a reserve of almost 1 million, which it would have burned through and used some type of gas, which you could have maybe bought off the wall or refilled somehow. And there was also another cut variant called the Sabertooth 360, which was also planned, which had a much smaller magazine size of only 8. The M2 flamethrower was also going to make an appearance. Now, it's only available in Dead Ops Arcade, but there is some models and some quotes from 5 and Kino der Toten that suggests that the flamethrower would have made an appearance on those maps, which I think is a shame because I love the flamethrower in World at War, and I think especially for the Vietnam-themed game that the flamethrower would have made perfect sense.
Yeah, time to cook up some stank steaks. Gotta light the grill. They're gonna get lit like Nikolai. I'm gonna burn them to the ground. I'm gonna make me some ashes. Mmm, bacon. Burn! That smells a little like popcorn. Woo! You want fries with that? Mmm, that's some well-done meat right there. Burn in hell, you skull-sucking maggot!
Hey, it's a flamethrower! Let me see if I can light my breath on fire. No, come, look, this is funny. Anyone need a light? Same weapon I used to kill my... Oh, no, that was something else. I used iron. Hey, Dempsey, I found a flamethrower. Jealous? Oh, is it just me or is it getting hot in here? Anyone else smell bacon? You die! You are on fire, hell pig! All this fire is making me sweat. Sweat vodka? Taste the flames of hell!
The dragon's breath will end their suffering. I will burn them off the face of the earth. They will succumb to the brightness of my honor. Now they will become as ash. This disease shall be burned away forever. They shall be cured. I burn away your sins. Darkness becomes light. That stings like a wasabi. Zombie shabu shabu. The rising sun burns you away.
Burn them. Burn them. Yes, burn so nicely. So heavy, so hot, so handsome. I'll bathe in their anguish cries. The doctor is ready to boil them into submission. Shut up, or I will burn out your eyes. Leberwurst, anyone? He is burning! What joy! Oh, do you smell the cooked intestine? Delicious! Flames! Oh, the glorious flames! Fry, my pretties! Fry!
Undead roasting on an open fire. See, I'm funny. I am not a cook. I love the smell of flamethrowers in the morning. Oh, give me a fiddle and call me Nero. Burn, yeah, you're gonna burn. I'll burn 'em like those hippies burn our flag. Burn, hippie, burn! Reminds you of home, doesn't it, you pico-hippie fiends? Roasting commies! Thank you for smoking. It's getting hot in here.
Ready for your 15 minutes of flame, Necro-Sapien? Like barbecues on the Cape. Spitfire! Not as hard as Jackie, but it will do. Time to light a fire under those undead asses. We must burn away this infection. Nothing says lovin' like a zombie in the oven. The glow from this fire will truly light the world. Apologies, but I prefer my meat medium rare. Burning and churning. Can you smell what the prez is cooking?
I will burn these capitalist death pigs to ash. They fry like empanadas on the flame. Quemadura, demonio! Quemadura! Baile la salsa, cerdo de la muerte. Finally, something that burns hotter than my cigars. Taste the cleansing fires of socialism, muertos! Ho, 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 puff, puff, give. Vuelva el fuego, demonio! Quemado! Scream for me! Your stale skin is like the kindling for my revolution!
I prefer my meat rare, but I'll make an exception. The Horde will burn en masse. Maximize efficiency. You will know pain, you will know fear, you will burn. If they must maraud, let them do so in fire. They will have to walk through fire to get to my president. You feel nothing, but you burn just the same. Burn. Period. I will scatter your ashes in a septic tank. The untouchable can be touched by flame. With this, your evil will have no dominion over man.
And I mean, Black Ops 1 just had so many other cut weapons. You'd have had the AK-47 or when upgraded to the Red Mist, which would have also had the flamethrower attachment. There was the Grim Reaper, there was the Uzi, the KS-23, the Caprice, however you pronounce that, the YK-2000, the Stoner, the Scorpion, the Mac, the Enfield, and the M60. And there are also probably tons of other weapons that were cut from campaign that could have been into zombies, but these are the ones that we mainly know of. And it really sucks because sometimes I do feel like Black Ops 1 is kind of lacking in weapons, especially weapons that are good. So maybe if we would have had some of these back in the day, maybe Black Ops 1's weapons wouldn't have felt as terrible. Now, since Kino der Toten was originally going to be on World at War, and they pushed it back into Black Ops 1, there was a lot of flip-flopping around with the OG maps. For example, the Thunder Gun was originally going to appear on 5,
Not bad. Not bad at all. Surprisingly light, but my back is barking. Let's see what everyone's been raving about here. Useful, sure, but doesn't have to be so big. This gun was made by commies. I can feel it in my bones. Oh, well worth the price of admission. To hell with you, you reanimated slime. Yeah, now you got something to groan about, stupid hippie. Get off of my lawn. I wonder if this is covered by the Second Amendment.
I think it's singing to me. Maybe this came from the Groom Lake program. I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear to crush the undead. Beautiful. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Consider yourself Peace Corps. That's how you come with the ice, man. Best gun, period. Clear the deck. Music to my ears.
This gun arouses my spirit. I think I love this gun. Trueno! I feel more powerful than ever. Un arma grande para un muchacho grande. As big as my ego and just as powerful. Islam! Revolutionary coming through! Who's the man? That would be I, Fidel Castro. Battered and splattered.
Time for Operation Thunderbolt. Blood will run this night. What a beauty. I have the tools and I have the talent. This will blow those marble eyes right out of their heads. Now that was a substantial commitment. The sound of death can be comforting in times like these. Torn asunder! This weapon could make a weaker man lazy. I could get used to this.
The Wunderwaffe was also going to be on Kino der Toten and 5.
Shocking, to say the least. Well, zap my ass and call me Dick. Oh, let there be light. Did somebody say juice? It's electric. Did. I crossed the streams. What of it? Not bad. Not bad at all. I like this thing. It's all over now, baby blue. Boom friggin' toast.
Don't know what this is, but I'm looking forward to using it. Who says you can't capture lightning in a bottle? Ideas have endurance without death. Listen to the hum. A spark for the sparkless. Gotta get this thing to DARPA. Who ordered the deep-fried zombie? Take that, you undead communists. Worthy of Ben Franklin. I could get used to this. How do you like that?
Esta arma debe ser bocadillos. This weapon is an honor for Cuba. Muerte por la electrocución. Power like this belongs to the people. The walking worm food will feel the sting of my rabia nuclear. A weapon fit for a comandante en jefe. I can get used to this. Zap it up. Burnt by the light of the revolution. This is why the revolution will triumph. Compliments of a socialist ideals. Look at the chain of pain.
The slugs will know pain. They will know agony. Just what I always wanted. Vengeance. I will bring down the lightning of democracy with this. I will lay waste to these hellions. This will end the Z-War. You've been fried. Shock therapy works every time. Electric Zack attack. Smells like burnt toast. 130,000 miles per hour. 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit. A truly effective weapon.
Hell yes! Bring it, you nasty squags! Hey, zombies! You like waffles?
The DG2. One slick piece of machinery.
Wonder Waffle. Yeah, thing of beauty. The Waffle. Killing zombies made easy in one single step, batteries included. Element 115 concentrated to a single beam of pure badassery. Wait, how the hell do I know that? Welcome to the party, meat sacks! They've got zero chance against me and the Wonder Waffle! You see that? Holy shit balls! Time to fry, freak nuggets! Zzz, zap! Woohoo! Oh, great, it's the wonderful Waffle! Hell, pigs, I am coming! Now, this gun makes Nikolai a very happy Cossack. This has more power than Moscow Electric Company. This almost as strong as the best Russian vodka. I have more for you! Taste the power of the Red Menace! Electrocution, just like the Gulag. What fun. Good times. Ha! You die like the dogs that you are. I think I saw his bones for a split second.
This will make for a fun time. I will shock them into submission. I finally get the turn with the Wunderwaffe. Behold, electric katana. It is on now, freak bags. The kamikaze strikes. Begone. The divine wind carries you away. Hadouken. Their bones are dust.
Ah! The Wunderwaffe Digital! Oh, I've missed you! This will be the shock of a lifetime. Oh, the element of power! The epitome of my genius! How many can I play this at once? Joy is the slaughtering of the meek with the Wunderwaffe. Listen, do you hear its joy? The doctor sends his regards. Shocking! Feels the power of the element. Maza, is that you? You mustn't tell anyone! Oh, what I wouldn't give to feel that kind of power.
Hellhounds were also going to make an appearance on 5.
Leave Checkers alone. Nowhere near as pretty as my boy Checkers. Sit, stay, stay. Let's play fetch the grenade. Who's a good boy? Boom goes the doggy. You ain't got nothing on Checkers. Back to the pit with you. I dropped you like a bad habit. Looks worse than the DNC.
Gotta walk the dog in the park. Looks like Dickie Nixon's mutt Checkers. Antihistamine. My nose may run, but I will not. Sit. Stay. Die. Good. I hate dogs. That's for making me sneeze. Defecate in your own yard, you ugly mutt. Now, play dead.
I will wipe you from the face of this earth. You will die like a capitalist pig. Come to me so that you may receive your treatment. I spit on you, dogs. Your stench makes my stomach turn. Muérete, perro del infierno. Back to your cage, beast. Your belt will adorn my walls. Die like the dog you are. Perro travieso. Wasted. I am the true dog whisperer. Swept away on the winds of Marxism. No bitches will touch me. Smoking.
If the president is allergic to them, then I am too. Ugh. Smells worse than a wet dog. Here, puppy, I have a treat for you. Could use a dog trainer here. Uglier than Nixon's dog, Checkers. The president didn't appreciate your canine dander. I'm blowing every dog away. Watch it, Dick. Take that brimstone stink elsewhere, beast. Submit! No dogs allowed. There's only one alpha here, and his name is Jack. More like hell puppies. They fall as easy as their rotting brethren. I will use your hides to carpet my den, mongrels. PSA of the day. Spay and neuter your dogs. Leash, gutter, and clean up after your dog. And then kill it!
Fetch me this horse!
So it seems like since Kino der Toten did get pushed back to Black Ops 1, they were doing a lot of flip-flopping around with what guns and what bosses were going where. And also forgive me if I get this wrong, but I believe this image right here is of the early concept of the Winter's Howl before it was changed to the Winter's Howl we all know and love. There were also tons of perks that got cut out of Black Ops 1. Well, not really cut out. It seemed like a lot of these perks kind of just got molded together to be PhD Flopper. You had Boom Juice, which was a perk that was planned for Ascension but got cut, which according to the quotes would have allowed the player to make an explosion, very, very similar to PhD Flopper.
Boom juice! Hell yeah, that drink is made just for me! This has texture like oil painting.
Like a kamikaze on a hot day.
The drinks that makes you go boom! Ha
We also have DPT Boom, which seemed to be like an earlier version of Boom Juice, which eventually again got worked into PhD Flopper. And there are also 4 cut quotes for this perk, which are very similar to the Boom Juice ones.
DTP Boom! Yeah! This drink is pretty good, but it's so hard to swallow.
Ah, now this is satisfying.
I go boom now!
There was also Pronade, which was also going to be on Ascension, and this one would have also have affected the player's jump and prone in some way, according to the quotes.
Ah, yeah, that's good stuff. Hey, that's a little bit like beer.
I think this was rotten.
With this, I can go down even quicker.
We also had Tough Brew. Not too much is known about this one other than some of the quotes that we have for it.
Tough Brew! That's what I'm talking about! This drink goes down like glue.
A drink for a true warrior.
Oh, yeah. Maybe this will toughen me up.
There's also going to be Candelier, which I'm assuming would have been very, very similar to Bandolier in COD 4 and Call of Duty World at War. It probably would have allowed all your guns to carry more ammo. There's also going to be Damage Aid. It seems like it would have been very, very similar to like stopping power from multiplayer. So it seems like this might have gotten reworked into being Double Tap 2.0. And like I said earlier, a lot of these perks kind of just got morphed into other ones. So like the Boom Juice, the Pronade, maybe the Tough Brew, it seems like maybe they all got just mixed into being PhD Flopper, while Damage Aid went on to become Double Tap 2.0 in Black Ops 2. And another little innovation that Treyarch tried to do was upgraded perks. It seems like there would have been a way to get upgraded perks, because we do have HUD icons that exist for the upgraded versions of Quick Revive, Juggernaut, and Speed Cola. Not too much is known about the upgraded perks or how they would have worked, but I still think that's pretty innovative for Treyarch at the time. There was also some cut content from the Wii. The Wii was originally supposed to get the DLCs Dead Ops Arcade and 5, but because the companies weren't really wanting to play nice with each other, the Wii only ever got Kino der Toten. And now this isn't really cut content, well it kind of is. There's also another fire sale jingle that has Samantha talking to you and explaining what a fire sale is in a very demonic tone. And this is what you hear when you play on the Wii. And I'm pretty sure it's also in regular zombies, like on the Xbox, PC, and PlayStation, but I think it's just extremely rare and only on certain maps.
Attention, zombie shoppers. Time for a fire sale. Until the music stops, box bowls $10 at a convenient location near you.
So I'm pretty sure I've heard that at some point. I think it just might be extremely rare, and I don't really think it's cut or anything. Or it might be, and I might just be remembering things completely wrong. And yet another example of Treyarch really trying to push the bounds with zombies, there was also going to be kill streaks in zombies. You had the RC bomb, you had radar, you had dogs, not to be confused with hellhounds. You had the helicopter, you had the napalm, again, not to be confused with the napalm zombie, and you had the airstrike. And they were intended to be bought via wall buys, so Treyarch was really trying to take zombies to a new height very early on in its development. Now, if you've seen my previous video, you would know about the engineer who was originally going to be on World at War, then got pushed back to Kino der Toten, and then got cut from Kino der Toten, and now is just used in Dead Ops Arcade. Now, one of the most egregious things that they cut had a lot to do with Ascension. Ascension was originally going to be a lot bigger, and because of the whole World at War Kino der Toten thing, it seemed like Ascension was also going to be a launch map. But it seems like there was going to be a 4th lander station, and I'm assuming it would have been in this giant area over here, because the amount of times that me and my friends would glitch to this area when Ascension first released, way too many times. So it seems like there was going to be a lot more areas on Ascension, another lander location, and we would have also had Double Tap. But sadly, they had to make a lot of cuts to Ascension, and I am very, very upset by that. Call of the Dead's Easter egg was also going to be a little bit different. There would have been a computer like kind of talking to you, and there are some unused quotes for that.
Activated. Deactivated. Weapon unavailable. Awaiting authorization. Error. Match allotment of 2 weapons reached. VR11, Scavenger, Wunderwaffe DG2, Gersh Device, Winter's Howl, Thundergun, Matryoshka Doll, Monkey Bomb.
Now for these things right here, I only ever saw people talk about them. I couldn't find any proof to back them up. So take these with a grain of salt. But it seems like there would have been a ranking system in zombies. We would have had challenges, mutators, perk upgrades like I talked about earlier, which were kind of confirmed. There would have been a turned game mode, and there was an earlier version of Zombie Blood. And I really couldn't find too much about all that stuff, so take that with a grain of salt. And also, it seems like there was a different Hellhound theme. That seems like it would have played for a lot longer than the one we have. And I think this was also cut from World at War 2. So it might have been cut from World at War and just been ported over to Black Ops 1 and never really intended to use, or something along those lines. In Moon, the PES, pretty much your astronaut suit, was also supposed to talk to you a lot more and inform you like when you get to new areas. There were tons of quotes involving that.
Warning. Entering airless environment. Laboratories. Receiving bay. Tunnel 6.
And if you watched the World at War one, you would also know about Paris. So Paris was originally meant to be Moon, but they ended up changing it at the last second. And when I mean last second, I mean like the last second. Moon in the game files is still referred to as Paris. So maybe one day we'll get the Eiffel Tower map that has just been eluding us for so long. Kino der Toten was also supposed to have a completely different feel than what we actually got. Now, some of the most egregious cut content has to deal with Shangri-La. Shangri-La so far seem to have the most cut content that I've seen in a while. Now, there were originally like 2 other maps that seem to have been combined to make Shangri-La. There was going to be a Vietnam era map and also a map called Temple of Doom. And here is some of the concept art of the Temple of Doom area. So it seems like these ideas were kind of molded and shaped into being Shangri-La. So in the top left, you would have had floating bodies and debris, the zombie spawn, the waterfall in the darkness blocked by stalactites and mites, the main body parts. Debris and bodies are caught in the stones before they fall over into the abyss. There would have been some type of holding cell that would have been stuffed with corpses. You would have had the entrance from the falls. The natural cave environment mirrors this area of the falls. It begins in a cave pool that drains into the dark, inaccessible waterfall. Halfway through the room, they have poured concrete down to level the floor and smooth some of the walls. Man-made pillars help support other structures. Iron meat hooks and hooked poles hang onto the walls along with hooked chairs and shovels. Another zombie spawn right here, a wooden planked reinforced walls were quickly thrown up to stem the horde. A central portion has been thoroughly torn down in the center. This is the area the players will board up. There would have been a smoldering pit. This pit is surrounded by a makeshift wooden plank barrier. Inside is a massive pile of scorched bodies, still smoldering and smoking. The vapor rises up and exits the room via the escape drop-down. A small platform next to the pit has 2 cans of gasoline used as an accelerant. Yet another zombie spawn. This opening is where they would stuff the rotting bodies before they burn them in the pit. When they started coming alive, the area was quickly boarded up. The zombies spawn and come from the huge pile left here. And then you would have had the location to the right to the zombie pins. You would have had a location sign. This drop down has roots and water dripping down its shaft. At the bottom, the player's fall is broken by a small pile of bodies. And you would have had your little escape drop down area. And this would have been the whole disposal room, because this area would have been filled with rotting corpses and bits of the same. They seemingly would dispose of the less useful bodies in this room. And there would have been more and more piled up bodies right next to the entrance. And this room would have also led you to the power room. So that would have been Temple. But like I said, it seems like all of this and the Vietnam map got changed up to be Shangri-La. And this was the original concept for Pack-a-Punch that ended up getting cut. And I'm kind of upset. This looks like a really cool Pack-a-Punch idea. And I'm kind of curious as to how they would have wrote this into the story. But this was originally their whole concept for the Pack-a-Punch. And my god, the Baby Maker, the Shrink Ray, went through so many different concepts. You have concept A, Based on an alternate flare gun, the weapon has a carved ivory artifact attached underneath. Stabbing with the weapon would reload the depleted energy of the gun until a max ammo spawns, which sounds awesome. You have B. This weapon uses the remnants of the worship wheel. It has been married to bits of an RPG. The wheels rotate until the glyphs glow. Several lights on the weapon indicate charge. There was also C. This massive weapon is pierced together from bits of a China lake. That sounds pretty cool. Lights on the top indicate the charge of the weapon and the power of the ammunition. Attached underneath is what's left of the golden statue, now used as a piercing weapon. You had D. The artifact is straightforward. You reach in and grasp the heads and the tail wraps around your arm. That sounds cool. It is a hold and charge gun. The longer the trigger is held, the stronger the impact will be. Gems along the tail will light up with a stored charge. And option E. After the initial charge is depleted. To recharge the weapon, you must use the blade. The more infected you kill, the greater the charge in the weapon until it can be used again. It marries a sacrificial knife artifact underneath mounted to the flare gun. And all of these weapons would have been recharged by melee or max ammos. And oh boy, if you thought we were done, it keeps going. There are so many more. Option F. This bulldog-like weapon combines a sacred worship wheel with an ancient sculpture. Lots of spinning when this thing fires, recharges with a max ammo pickup. Option G. This odd-looking weapon may seem strange, but you can reach in through the straps and grip the neck. The head of the Naga curls around like a ram's horn. When firing, it will be quite visible. Option H. This odd weapon has a lot of movement and is closer in design to the current freeze pistol and ray gun. A small statue artifact powers the gun and spins in a magnetic field. When firing the weapon drains its charge from the artifact, it will recharge on its own but is slow. Option I. It's hard to see, but there is a circular stone artifact in at the gun center that charges the weapon. It will stand out once color is applied. Option K. This large hunk of masonry has been fitted with the capacitors to drain its mystical energy to power the weapon. Recharges on its own, but slowly. Option J. This weapon's power comes from a village bell. Its powers are activated once it rings. The massive sound is distinctive when fired. The weapon will reload on its own, but very slowly. And all of these weapons on this page reload by themselves, but very, very slowly. And here is a little bit more about the village bell. Would have had a somewhat patina bronze look, while the rest of the gun would contrast in more metal tones, complemented with a wooden grip. The guide rings had to be this far away from the bell or we wouldn't see them in the game view. When fired, a resounding and ominous gong would sound as if the bell held a mystical power that had just been unleashed. This weapon's power comes from a village bell. Its powers are activated once it rings. A massive sound is distinctive when fired. This weapon can reload on its own, but very slowly. And then we actually get to the shrink ray that we all know and love. Raise sights. By setting the sights level, the player will be able to see beyond the figure and magnet to look down the sights. Sock is a China Lake. Weapon is no longer than our longest sniper rifle. Weapon is this length so that we see the movement in view. The power source is endless, but the conversion IC can only last for a series of shots, then it must be replaced. After a series of shots, the incinerated S2565 induction coil must be replaced. Artifact power sources. Each artifact is created with a different stone, therefore they have different effects when fired. So this would have been the earlier version of like the staves and the bows that we have nowadays. With each different stone, the shrink ray would have done something completely different. Like I said, for Black Ops 1, Treyarch was really ahead of their time. And that's not the only thing that was cut from Shangri-La. You also had a lot of other boss zombies and zombie types. And these cut zombie types kind of come from the whole Vietnam era map. Like I said, the Vietnam map and the Temple of Doom map got kind of pushed together to become Shangri-La, but you would have had the smokescreen zombie, festering sores, and wound cavities spew Agent Orange type smokescreen. The cumulative smoke effect obstructs players' field of view, allowing for other stronger zombies to gain advanced position. These zombies stagger irregularly and take an indirect path toward the player, making them harder to hit, also allowing more smoke to spread. Close proximity to zombie can cause temporary impaired vision in a short exposure, and even blindness if long enough. Early pinpoint sniper strikes will mostly be the best tactic. At mid to close range, a flamethrower is the most effective way to bring the zombie down and disperse the smoke. Sniper downed corpses continue to generate small, irregular bursts of smoke, but no longer cause significant vision occlusion. And let me just say, glad they didn't bring that guy. And you would have had your standard VA grunt zombie, and it would have been the same gameplay as the other standard zombies, same health, movement, and attack. And there's also a hand blown off version where the radius and the ulna would now be used as like a punching dagger. You had the martial art zombie. As a former national champion martial artist and master, this Val Thout, I don't even know how to pronounce that, martial art zombie has seen better days, but still has the chops to make life extremely difficult for the player. Broken beyond belief due to a life/death of a continual challenge in battle. Are those tank treads across his back? This zombie has taken his disadvantage and turned them into assets. Dislocated shoulders, ooh, I don't like that, and broken limbs coupled with 0 pain receptors, blinding speed, a lifetime of training toward perfection of a technique, an uncanny, almost precognitive ability to dodge bullets and use the knees and elbows as weapons make this quote-unquote special one hard to hit zombie. Strange and unorthodox style movements and timing create a confusing illusion of physical direction, making it difficult for the player to read and in essence get a beat on the zombie. With the strength that belies his modest lean frame, this flexible flurry of timing, speed, and agility is supremely deadly at close range and is best dealt at a distance through a strong environmental awareness, pre-planning, and a little bit of luck. The player must also be ready to take advantage of any explosive opportunities at hand, and if close range combat is inevitable, the best option would be to retreat into a corner or a funnel with the hopes of restricting the zombie's options/movements and bettering the chances of a kill. So this guy just seemed like it would have been like one of the transit sprinters. It would have been like really, really fast and just hard to hit. But if you can get him in like a tunnel, or you have like a China Lake or something that has a big radius, or maybe even a shotgun, you probably would have been fine. And right here is some more standard grunt type zombies that would have been based off of the Viet Cong fitting the Vietnam map. Oh, here's this son of a bitch. Here's a meteor infection/mutation, visual DNA. Near translucent skin with a blue varicose and veining and sweaty sheen. That just sounds so disgusting. General color ranges from a deep yellow I have no idea how to pronounce that, to cool pinks and pale green blues, raising scab-like dark maroon blemishings. Orifices are tortured battles between function and radically accelerated cellular growth, maroon and gutters, random oversized pustules of green-yellow pus, raw red flesh between larger skin folds, 1 to 3 random plague-like sores consisting of shiny black core like an 8-ball or an eggplant, slightly exposed underskin. This just sounds terrible. Slightly exposed underskin with blue-black veins of blood poisoning. And I'm assuming maybe this guy would have been like a tank or something a little bit stronger than what we're used to. And there would have also been a zombie oxen. This guy looks cool. An oxen affected by an Agent Orange type gland mutation causing not only the zombie state, but also blocking myostatin, the protein that normally inhibits muscle growth after a certain period of development. This naturally occurring gene trait can be found in the massive muscle growth of the Belgian blue beef cattle breed. This kind of like feels like a Brahmin from like Fallout New Vegas. Variant uses: random singular ox, random singular with broken yoke, dragging portion of demolished cart, with full cart, with cart and zombie driver. That would have been dope. And with multiple in stampedes. That sounds like it would have been pretty cool. Like with a zombie driver, that would have been dope. And also in Shangri-La, you would have had cut teleporters, and it seemed like at one point in time, maybe we would have played as some of the characters from campaign, because at Raven Studios, they had this poster up, which seemed like you would have gotten to play Shangri-La as Woods. Editing Rabbit here, I also forgot that there was going to be a blowpipe cut wonder weapon from Shangri-La. Again, more Shangri-La stuff. And I think this is one of the most egregious things that they took out, because just imagine the possibility. That sounds cool. A blowpipe? That sounds dope. But unfortunately, we never got to see the blowpipe wonder weapon. So like I said, Shangri-La had tons of cut content. There are also 2 other things that I found whilst editing this video. I feel like every time I go online, I find more things that were cut. The MP40 was supposedly supposed to be on Moon, but ended up getting taken out. And we know this because there is a Samantha quote that directly references the Afterburner, which is the MP40's upgraded name.
The Afterburner just sounds so deadly!
Now, I don't know how true this is. I'm just going off of the word of the internet, and would people really just go on the internet and tell lies? But in the coding of Ascension, you know how when you do the floating letters step, how you have to spell Luna? Well, in the lettering, if you ended up spelling Hit Sam, it would trigger a cut audio clip that says, "That's not very nice." Or if you were to spell it H Yenna, it would trigger a cut audio clip saying 731. I do not know the legitimacy to this. I could not find any audio clips or any proof of this, but I found it and I choose to believe it, so it's true. Transit had some of the most ridiculous cut content that I've ever seen, and honestly it should be considered a war crime to butcher it as bad as they did. The final product that we ended up getting is so vastly different than what they wanted to deliver, it's insane. But I can't blame them too much. It's a tale as old as time. Console limitations and them having to rush to meet the deadline always adds up and equals to just such a disappointment. And honestly, Transit had just so much cut content, I don't even know where to start, so we're just going to jump right into it. Transit at one point was going to have a very different round end jingle than the one we actually had, and I'm not going to lie, I like this one a lot more than the one that's in the game. This one's way more dark and mysterious and overall creepy than the one they actually put on Transit. Was just the same generic round change all the way from Nocturne and Toten, and they kept using this all the way until Die Rise. Who knows, but I'll shut up so you can listen to it. Now, there was a different Game Over song at one point in Transit, probably way early in its development, and I don't know if I'm getting bamboozled here or if this is actually legit, so we're gonna have to put on our tinfoil hats and just believe. But someone a long time ago claimed that they got their hands on a Black Ops 2 demo disc, and inside the files they ended up finding this song. And they don't claim that it's anything special. They actually state that it could just be some leftovers, it could just be a placeholder until they actually had Carry On. Who knows what the purpose of this was, but we do know that it is Unholy Confessions by Avenged Sevenfold. So whether it was actually intended to be in the map or just a placeholder or them just messing around to see what fits, I still think it's pretty interesting. Now, you know how you can play survival on farm in town? Well, originally you were also going to be able to do that at the power station and at the diner. And you're in luck because we also have the unused survival icons for each. And I'm just going to go ahead and assume that they took these out for console limitations and just to free up some space because these were probably already done and ready to go. Black Ops 2 Zombies, instead of Turn and Grief mode, was going to have a lot more game modes originally, but majority of them got scrapped or just reworked into Turn and Grief. Two of the more well-known ones are Race and Meat. Race would have taken place in the tunnel, power station, and farm area, and we do have a loading screen for Race on the farm area, and upon spawning in, you would have had some Richtofen quotes, and the race would have began. And the objective was to get the necessary amount of zombie kills to open your door and progress to the end, and the first team to make it to the end would win, and it's literally a race to see who can get to the end. It's very self-explanatory.
Hello, my sexy leg participants. It is your fearless leader, Richtofen. Welcome to Race. It's very easy. Just kill the required amount of zombies to open a door, move through to the next area, and repeat until you cross the finish line. A glorious game, if I do say so myself. Be sure to cause your opponent some grief along the way. Get ready to race. Let's pick up the pace. You are a room behind. Your lead has increased to 2 rooms. What strong, sexy legs you have. Hey, slowpokes. Stop wasting time. You're 2 rooms behind. Mein Gott. I can't believe you're ahead by 3 rooms. What drugs are you on? Kill 15 zombies and your door opens. 3 zombies to go.
Now you might be wondering, that does not sound like Richtofen at all, and you would be correct. Before they actually do get the VAs in there, they usually have somebody record the lines and they just use that as a temporary placeholder until they can get the actual VAs. And this is actually one of these sound designers, Colin. You will recognize that voice if you watch some of my other videos. He also did some temporary voice work for previous games. And also one little thing, there might have been some cut arrows that were never actually used in the game that might have been used for the race game mode, kind of indicating on which way to go, because these cut images were found in the game but were never used. The other game mode was going to be Meat. Played in the town, 2 teams of 4 are split into opposing sides of the map, and upon starting, a piece of meat would spawn in, and you have to toss it to the other team's side of the map. And zombies only go after the team which has the meat on their side. And the objective is to stay alive for as long as possible and continuously throw the meat back and forth. And after a certain amount of time passes, the round will end and the teams will switch sides. And luckily for you, we actually have the loading screen for this, and I'm not gonna lie, this loading screen is amazing. And it kind of gives you a little glimpse of just what they were envisioning for town originally before we got the really, lackluster town that we have now in Transit. And there are some unused meat textures that would have been used for the game mode, but unfortunately did get scrapped. And there's also this icon that was in the Transit files that maybe could have been used for Meat, or really any of these game modes, because I've never seen this before, but apparently it was in the files. And of course, there are some Richtofen quotes for you.
Hey there, willing participants. Welcome to Meat. The rules are easy. When the meat drops, you finally reached manhood. I mean, grab it, throw it, don't get caught with it. Zombies will only attack you if your side has the meat. Don't die and you might just win. Feel free to kick it too, my pretties. Get ready to play Meat. Meat pile in the center, go get it. I know you're dying to get your hands on some meat, so get it. The meat has fallen and is begging to be grabbed. Step 1, get meat done. Step 2, get rid of meat. Oh, you have my meat in your hands. Kinky. Oh, hello everybody. I'm not going to make an obvious meat joke. For now. Get ready to play. Who's ready for a big meat pile?
And there was also a bunch of other game modes. You would have had a zombie containment / wave-based game mode, which might have had you like hold down an area and prevent a certain number of zombies from escaping. And we have seen this game mode in many custom zombie maps, and I'm very upset that we never actually got this legit because it's very, very fun. And you would have also had Pitted, No Man's Land, which I'm just assuming is very, very similar to the Moon's No Man's Land, Deadpool, Cleansed, Richtofen, and Maxis. We're not exactly sure how exactly all these game modes would have played out, but man, they were very, very ambitious with all the game modes that they were wanting to introduce. Now, if you're like me, and you like to know why things get cut, well, you're in luck because Jason Blundell was on the Zombros podcast many, many moons ago, and the topic came up about Transit, and he actually answered the question as to why these game modes got cut.
Its ambition was definitely kind of greater than what the final release was.
Okay.
You know, when it was being proposed, and that was Jimmy who was kind of working on that at the time.
Of course.
It had lots of game modes and different versions that you could run. So people that kind of know at the moment there's, you know, standard mode, and then there was Grief, right?
Yep.
Well, Transit was being constructed. It had like 4 or 5 different entirely different ways of playing it. It was very exciting. It actually kind of suffered from its ambition in a weird way, because when we'd all test it as a studio and play it, and we'd play all these different modes, and they were all kind of halfway there. So there's one like, I think it's called like something, Capture the Meat or Chase the Meat or something. It was like this one where there was meat things around the map, and you had to go and get it, and it's like safe zone, and then areas get cordoned off or opened up, and lots of different modes. It was really fun, but all the modes were kind of a quarter halfway there. And at the time, again, Black Ops 2, right? Black Ops 2. It was on the back end of kind of development. In other words, Zombies got the kind of the minimum amount of support in the group. And the problem that happened was, as we got closer to the end of development, you know, something that Jimmy faced was that, and he'll be able to speak about this far better than I would, but what happened was there was a call which was like, okay, we can't get all these modes to the kind of standard we want, so we need to make the call to kind of strip them away and switch them off. But that decision was made, unfortunately, a little bit too late. And so what happened is the core experience that got released had a bunch of things where, if that's all they'd focused on, some of those rough edges would have been smoothed out.
Okay.
And so that's the kind of, I'm sure, let's put it this way, if Jimmy was to sit down and look at that, he would probably make a series of strategic changes if he'd had the full development just looking at that map, just with that focus. Because he was doing some really ambitious stuff with the different game modes, and it just ran out of time. That's one of the dangers of development.
Now, if you played Transit when the map first released and you're ready for some hardcore nostalgia, you might remember this. When Transit released, there were actually 3 music Easter eggs that you could activate, and they were all activated the same way but in a different order. So if you hit all 3 of the teddy bears, but you kept doing it in different orders, you would get 3 very distinctive music Easter eggs. You'd get Carry On by Kevin Sherwood, you'd get Carry On by Avenged Sevenfold, and you'd get that one Skrillex song where it goes, "I'ma try it out." You remember the one from the multiplayer map? At launch, you could activate all of these music Easter eggs, but for some unknown reason, right after launch, they decided to patch this out, so you can only activate the one music Easter egg. So now let's get into some of the more egregious cut content from Transit, the stuff that really would have made this map the best map of all time. But before that, I first want to say there is some pre-alpha footage somewhere out there on the internet that shows us an entirely different version of Transit. But thanks to Activision and their cease and desist, the only known footage of it to exist has been scrubbed from the internet. So if you are out there and you have that footage, hypothetically, send it to me. Things can remain anonymous, I won't tell a soul, but I need to see this footage ASAP because allegedly it was uploaded for a short time on the internet, and apparently it showed such a vastly different Transit that everybody was just in awe of what it was. So if you have that pre-alpha footage, for the love of God, please send it to me. And while I talk about all this stuff, I'm going to be showing you guys some pre-alpha Transit pictures that people were able to rip through the files, so that way you guys can get an idea and the overall feel that they were wanting to head with Transit. Now, do you guys remember all the rumors about the Bus Route B? Well, that allegedly was going to be an actual thing. There was going to be a different bus route, and there was going to be a second bus, and there would have been more destinations, and you would have been able to skip certain destinations. So it seems like you would have had more control over the bus on where exactly it goes and what it does. And Bus Route B is kind of canon in a weird way. Even though it was cut, it still actually did exist. There was a Bus Route B, but they ended up taking it out. And Transit was supposed to have a lot more things in it. Allegedly, at some point in its development, they wanted to add a giant lava lake, they wanted to add a power factory, and a motel. But one of the coolest things that at some point in its development that they were floating around the idea of that actually made it pretty far, there would have been a daytime in Transit with no fog, no lava, and no denizens. And apparently the idea was floating around that they wanted to do 2 different versions of Transit. One if you had completed the Moon Easter egg, and one if you had not. And allegedly there are some Ultimus quotes floating around out there that would confirm this, but I for the life of me could not find them, so if you happen to have them, please send them to me. But it seems like this idea might have been scrapped because figuring out a way to do game-to-game achievements and also doing it with like 4 players was just way too big of a hassle to tackle, so they ended up scrapping the idea of having 2 different versions of Transits depending on the Moon Easter egg. Which kind of does suck, but I'm also glad they didn't do that, because imagine Transit being way better if you hadn't done the Moon Easter egg, but you already did it, so now you're stuck with like the shittier one and you like can't go back to the cool one. I would be kind of upset. And there was also a cut lantern that would have helped you scare away the denizens. Now this lantern allegedly can be seen in Buried. When you're doing the Easter egg and you come across the lantern step, people have claimed that this was going to be the lantern that you used in Transit that would scare away the denizens. And I think the reason that this was never implemented was because they really wanted to slow you down on Transit, because again, the console limitations was a real thing. Transit was just way too ambitious for its time. The consoles could not handle it, so they couldn't really give you anything that would speed the map up, just because, again, the consoles would have probably exploded. And like I said, there was going to be a day and night cycle, and this is an image of the skyboxes of both day and night that you were going to have. And one cool aspect of this is if you have a sniper rifle and you walk around Transit and you look through the reflection of the sniper rifle scope, you can actually see what appears to be what Transit would have looked like in the day. Now I know it's really hard to see, but everyone seems to unanimously agree that this is what Transit was going to look like allegedly during the daytime. And right here is a earlier concept of the Transit layout, which honestly I kind of prefer this one over the one we actually got. And at some point, Transit was going to have more paths that would direct you between areas, so there wasn't just going to be like, alright, you have to go this way. It would have probably been like, okay, you can take this path, and they were also going to flesh out more areas to make them not as useless as they are in the actual Transit we got. And with a lot of these pictures, you can also tell that town was going to be vastly different. With this image right here, you can see that the town wasn't really going to be filled with the lava that we all just know and love. It was going to be laid out a little bit differently. And with some of the other pictures that I've seen, it seems like they want to make town a little bit more lively, which I would have definitely appreciated, because the town that we ended up getting in Transit just kind of feels really dead and doesn't really feel like a town as much as it just feels like whatever the opposite of a town is. And also, we have a screenshot of an earlier version of Farm. It's not really much to go by, but you can see that there are a couple changes here and there. Some random objects have been moved around and aren't exactly where they are in the actual game. The bus was also supposed to be more interactive. Apparently, there were some cut TED quotes that I could not find whatsoever that related to filling up the bus with gas and having to pay him in order to get the bus moving. And I'm kind of glad they cut that out, because to me, that would be very tedious and get on my nerves. But one thing that they did cut out, which I thought was very interesting, were the concept of ambush rounds. So it made riding the bus a little bit more dangerous. So randomly the bus would break down and dogs would start spawning in, and the bus would not start moving until you actually kill all the dogs, get your max ammo, and then the bus would start moving. And this got pretty far into development because we do have cut quotes for Hellhounds.
Wow, those are the ugliest dogs I've ever seen. Aw, poor little doggies, I gotta kill you. Devil dogs are coming! I don't like hurting animals, but I'll make an exception for you. Suck bullets, devil dogs!
Oh, no! It's those horrible Sasquatch dogs! I'm pretty sure those dog things were bred in secret labs! Hellhounds from the Hollow Earth! Oh, man, how am I supposed to fight these things? I guess this is all she wrote.
Whatever happened to poodles? I like poodles. Oh, heck. Gonna make these old legs run, ain't you? These things are uglier than my butt. Tell me I don't hear no demon dogs. Get them guns ready.
Now, one thing they did cut that I'm very offended by is that originally Richtofen was supposed to talk to you a lot more. He was going to have a lot of unique dialogue for when you do certain things around the map, like hitting the box, getting power-ups, and or ignoring power-ups, going to new areas. He was going to be a lot more talkative, but it seems like pretty late in development they decided to axe this, and some of this was actually in the release of Transit, because I very distinctly remember hearing that Nikolai quote that you're about to hear. But it seems like not too long after the game dropped, they quickly patched this out because it didn't really make too much sense, if Stuhlinger is supposed to be the only one that can hear Richtofen. So it seems like they decided to go with that idea because I guess storyline-wise, it really just didn't make too much sense. And it really sucks because it sounds like Richtofen is just having a full-on blast in the ether.
Oh, look! You got the Wunderwaffe DG2! Ha! Just kidding! It's like playing Don't Touch the Lava, but with real lava! Is that all the damage those missiles did? I was hoping for less ground and more lava. I remember doing that just to anger that little girl. Oh, his screams are so delightful! Ah, this building looks familiar. No power, no juggernog. You have it easy compared to how they had it. It looks like a max ammo, but I can't be sure. I can only see everything at the same time. That gift was just for you. Won't you throw it away? I think I'm offended. Speed Cola! Oh, how I miss that invigorating taste! Ah, the best drink of them all! Blah, 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 vodka, vodka, blah, blah. Ah, I think I'm starting to miss that drunk. Is no one going to say anything about vodka? Ah, you guys are boring! You know, I think I'm starting to miss the other three. Even a stupid American or drunken Russian could do better than that. Trying to take a break, I think. Now, which one of you is going to take care of that little bastard while everyone else runs around? Now go look at everything! Drop one of these right here and... Sometimes my pretties need help. Attack! You know, I used to be in your shoes. Then I became an all-powerful, omnipotent being.
Now, Richtofen wasn't the only one with some cut quotes. Maxis also did have his fair share of cut quotes. Now, some of these were never used in the game, and I believe some of these might have been in at launch and then quickly patched out, very similar to the Richtofen quotes.
The creature is too far away. You need his energies, or all your efforts are for naught. The creature is near. Lure him to the spire. This is a great power source, although it will have to be amplified. With any higher output, our communications will likely cease. We will require a burst of tremendous voltage. You have done well, but we need yet more energy. This is but the tip of what needs 3 sides. Now, create the trichotomous system. That is but one of the required 3 points to complete the design. Nothing to see here, for now. Maybe down the road we will revisit this place. Such a lovely place. It seems some new cargo is aboard and needs to be delivered. The spire! The spire is nearby! We have other ways. This power is too intense for my purpose. I cannot communicate while it is... 9! That makes him stronger! No! Yes! The spire is online! Now, if the other sites can only be likewise empowered, then perhaps there is still a chance to complete that which was begun so many years ago. Your help has been invaluable. Farewell! You have constructed a control mechanism, but to program the computer, you will need to secure an application nav card. You will have to seek it out, then return here and activate the spire to save mankind. You are not one of those foul creatures. Excellent. I have been searching for decades. Listen now. What I have to say is of the utmost importance to mankind. If you would see this planet freed from the curse of these wretched undead creatures and the monstrous evil which controls them, then you must obey my every command. I cannot effect physical change, yet. You must be my hands. Only you can stop that awful worm, Richtofen.
Upgraded jet gun. Need I say more? We got blue-balled from an upgraded jet gun that would have been infinitely better. It would have lasted longer and done more damage and overall just been a better gun. But unfortunately, they just didn't have the time and resources to make it. Because as you've probably learned by now, this game was incredibly rushed. And one thing that I had completely forgotten about until I read something about it, in the Wii U version, the jet gun has some text that says, "Aw yeah." And I remember reading something forever ago about the upgraded jet gun having this exact text when you upgrade it. So, you know, that's just another cool thing about the jet gun that we could have gotten, but we never did. Now, power-ups were originally supposed to stay on the bus. So if you were to get a power-up on the bus, it wouldn't travel through the bus and you would never be able to get it. It would actually stay on so you could grab it. Now, I'm pretty sure this was actually at launch. This might just be a Mandela effect, but I'm really positive I remember playing on transit and being able to grab drops inside the bus. Maybe it caused too many errors and crashes and just overall affected the performance, and maybe that's why they had to cut it. Who knows, but man, the amount of max ammos I've lost because of this. So that is going to be everything for transit. If I happen to find anything else while I'm making this video, I will add it towards the end. Now moving on to Die Rise. There are many cut quotes in Die Rise, but there is one called Gripe Russia that is said by Samuel Stullinger.
Russia.
And this has led many people to speculate and theorize that maybe at one point in time, Die Rise was going to take place in Russia instead of China. This is not like 100% proven or anything. It's all just speculations and theories based off of one cut quote. Now, this next part isn't really cut content as much as it is like a lead up to the final product. There are parts of an unused intro cutscene that is basically just the temporary voice actors doing their placeholder lines before they could get the actual VAs in. Now, this cut intro scene is a tad bit different than the final product, and overall, it's not really cut content, like I said, as much as it is just temporary stuff until they can get the actual VAs. But I still thought it was very, very funny, and it was just slightly different enough that I want you guys to watch.
I don't understand. Why are you doing this? Why me? Travel where? Don't you get it? There's nothing left. What did you? What do you mean, mend the breath? Maybe I don't want to. You think of that? You wouldn't. You can't. They'd kill me if they knew. Oh shit! You're gonna talk to your imaginary friends? You might want to wait till you're in a seed-free zone!
Samuel! Get over here now! Come on! What do we do now? We arm up, find a good place to defend, kick ass.
I don't understand.
What are you talking about, Samuel? Misty made it pretty clear. Accept your fate! He can't! I'm yours! We go down! We're fighting!
Have we been here before?
Now, I'm not sure if these are all 100% cut quotes or unused ones, or if somehow they're just really rare in the game. I'm literally going off of like a 10-year-old forum post. So I'm just going to let you guys listen to the ones that I think are actually cut, and if I made a mistake, I apologize. But please correct me in the comments if I did.
Remember, my friend, sometimes your answer may lay far, far away from the original question. Joyous news, my kind helper! The first spider has now been activated! Together we will thwart Maxis once and for all! Keep your ears open, Samuel Stullinger. You will hear me again. Ah, that's the echo effect. I love it. I'm still here. The spire, it's so beautiful, and it is mine. All ours. It's all ours. Who knows where? Who knows when? It's so fun, yeah?
You have taken an important step. The spire has been activated. Now, you must locate and activate the others if we are to prevent Richtofen's plans from reaching fruition. Excellent work, humans. Your allegiance brings us one step closer to our goal. Without the controllers of their Spire, my communications are increasingly fragmented. Do not lose faith. Do not listen to the words of others, lest you face eternal damnation.
Now, these next couple quotes are actually from the characters you play as, and a lot of them have to do with the nav cards. And I believe these were actually in the game more towards launch, but later down the line eventually got patched out once nav cards kind of became useless. Because I think the theory goes that nav cards were originally going to be the way to unlock all the new game modes, and then, you know, once that kind of backfired, the nav cards and nav tables kind of became irrelevant. So I think Treyarch was originally wanting to do a lot more with the nav cards and the nav tables, but it just never panned out. But we still do have some quotes. And like I said, I think these were originally on the map and then later got patched out. But let me know what you guys think. I went into the game with multiple different characters on multiple different tries and kept picking up the nav cards, and I never heard a single quote. So my game always could just be busted, but I think these were patched out.
Another one, huh? Hey, this thing fits. We're a long way from home.
More games, more puzzles. Super. What does it all mean? So it goes here. Well, thank you. Couldn't you have just told us?
I suspect that this particular card is intended for another location. Is it here? Or somewhere else? Card accepted! It seems our manipulation grows ever more complex.
More nerd stuff. Suppose it can't do any harm to keep it. Well, who'd have thunk it? That thing we've been lugging around actually worked.
So now for these next couple quotes, again, I'm not sure if these are actually cut quotes or if I'm just getting bamboozled, so take this all with a grain of salt.
I don't understand. How can there be power? Everything's gone. Leave me alone! Stop talking to me! Oh, keep it together, Samuel. Why is this happening to me? Oh, it's this book. It's cursed. It's not real. No, I know it's real. Crazy German telling me to do things. The voice. He knows things I couldn't. He has to be real. Where are we? What happened to the town? The light. I remember the light. Ah! Oh, it spoke! One of them spoke!
We're a long way from home.
And lastly, two more things about Die Rise. Number one, it seems that Tombstone Soda was supposed to be on the map because in the game's audio files, each character has a line for Tombstone Soda. I'm not going to play it or anything because it's just the same line from Transit, so either they were lazy and didn't remove them, or Tombstone was on Die Rise and they just took it out last second. And lastly, I came across an image of a very, very early Die Rise spawn, and you can see in this image the spawn is laid out just a tad bit differently than the one we actually do have. It seems like this first floor of this building wanted to keep all the perks in one area instead of how they have it now, which is all kind of like spread out. Now let's move on to Mob of the Dead. Originally, Mob of the Dead was going to be a lot bigger, and actually they wanted it to encompass all of Alcatraz, but of course because console limitations and just lack of time, they were unable to. And I found a bunch of pre-alpha screenshots of Mob of the Dead, and as I'm talking about it, I will just have those in the background. But what I found interesting in some of these pre-alpha screenshots is there's this one where the M14 is on the wall instead of the Tommy gun, so maybe at some point in time this was going to be spawn, or the M14 was just being put there as a placeholder. You can never really tell with these kind of things. But probably the one big thing to come out of Mob of the Dead was the Richthofen zombie head. And Jason Blundell in that same interview from earlier actually had a comment about this.
You mean like the snapping Richthofen head?
The what? Oh, is this? I think I've seen this before.
No, I have not heard of this.
I've sent this to you. I know you've seen
Okay,
this.
all right then. Well, I see a
I've
lot.
sent this to
There's
you.
so much stuff. You
We've
know,
had this conversation.
I can't remember it all.
I think was it Mob of the Dead that I think somebody ripped it? I don't know, but I've seen this before.
Okay.
A render of it.
There's been different ideas. Very few, because usually wonder weapons take so much investment that it's very rare for them to be concepts and then thrown away.
Yep.
Even if a wonder weapon is not working, we'll just play with the values until we're happy with it.
Okay.
Even if it didn't get to where we wanted it to go originally or wasn't hitting a certain vibe. But because it's, as I say, weapons are such a huge investment to make and animate and check all its consistency and so forth. It's very, very rare that they're just left on the side.
Fascinating.
Well, let's not get away from the Richthofen head, though. Let's not try to dodge that. But so was that actually a wonder weapon that just didn't work out?
It was an idea that never made it onto the table. Yes, John.
So maybe at some point in time, they were actually planning to have this as a wonder weapon in Mob of the Dead, but then pushed it back to Grief and then just canned it as a whole because they just weren't happy with it. Which is a shame because we actually have footage of how this thing would have behaved, and it's pretty spooky and yet badass.
Ouchie, my head! You look great! Get your fingers out of me! Feel it! Hey, I'm over here! Why don't you come and pick me up? Let's play toss the head. Stop leaving me on the ground. God, it's really dirty on the ground. Come and get me.
Now, one thing that I keep seeing a lot of people say that was cut, but I never really see any evidence for, but I'm going to believe it because it makes it more interesting. Apparently, there was an individual Easter egg for each player that did get scrapped, which kind of does suck because I feel like it would have just added even more to Mob of the Dead. And also, there were cut character announcer quotes for everyone but Weasel. So maybe this would have had to do with each person's individual Easter egg, or maybe this is just completely unrelated and related to the main Easter egg, or who really knows, but this exists.
Carpenter, double points, insta-kill, max ammo, kaboom, fire sale.
Carpenter, double points, insta-kill, max ammo, kaboom, fire sale.
Carpenter, double points, insta-kill, max ammo, kaboom. Fire sale!
Now, when it comes to perks, apparently in the files, PhD and Mule Kick could also be found, but in the game, we know that they are just chilling over there on the docks. And also, Jug was originally supposed to be in Cell Block, but they said YOLO, put PhD Flopper in instead, and decided to make Cell Block infinitely harder. And continuing on with the perks thing, Electric Cherry was actually supposed to have its own jingle, and it was going to be an 80s disco theme, but Treyarch themselves has stated that it didn't really fit with the map, so unfortunately it had to go. And the last thing that I could find about Mob of the Dead is some cut quotes from Brutus. Now again, I'm just going off of what the internet tells me, and I apologize if any of these are actually in the game, but as far as I know, I'm more than positive majority of these have actually been cut or were taken out at some point.
I have a life, a wife and son. 9:30, guard begins his rounds. This better be the real deal this time. I knew you four were in cahoots. You're gonna learn some respect. Court's in session. You can't hide from the law. The guilty must be punished. Justice is served. No parole. Pay for your sins. Crime never pays. I said no talking. Get back to your cells. This is a prison. Sal! I'm coming for you, Sal. Billy! Don't try to run, Billy. Ellington! Where are you going, Weasel? Flan! Your luck's run out, Finn.
Now, Buried had the least amount of stuff that I could find about it, but I was able to find a bunch of pre-alpha pictures of it, so I will put those all on screen right now. And in the pre-alpha pictures, one of them has the shield in it, so maybe at one point we were going to have the shield, or that's just from them giving themselves all the weapons and stuff. I don't know, I'm not smart, but I did find a picture of the shield on Buried in a pre-alpha state, so I thought I should tell you guys. But there is an unused music box theme that we never got to have, which is a damn shame, because I'm always down for some creepy themes. And the waifu ghosts were actually going to have their own rounds, similar to Hellhounds and stuff, and they actually had their own theme for it, which we never got to hear, and I'm kind of glad. I like how the ghosts operate now, mainly because I can get my free perks, and I'm always a huge fan of that. And of course, we also have some cut quotes. And as I was actually looking for these cut quotes, I found a Rizzo video where he actually put them together in a conversation, and it just made this infinitely better, and I had to share it. But I really think these cut quotes should have been in the game because it just adds way more personality to these characters.
Hey! Everyone listen to me, okay? I think I know what we have to do.
Stu, you may want to think before you speak. People are gonna start thinking you're not altogether right in the head.
Ah, put a sock in it, stupid jerk, before I use my boot.
If I was more prone to sarcasm, I probably would say, please, tell me more.
You know that voice I keep hearing? I really think he's trying to help us, you know?
No one cares what your brain buddy tells you, drool finger.
It's highly unlikely that any good will come from following the advice of an invisible man.
Any chance you and your imaginary friend could just talk in private for a while?
Look, I know it sounds crazy, but he's given me real good hints about what we need to do.
I'm sorry, Stuhlinger. Your link with reality seems tenuous at best.
Listening to voices only you can hear ain't a good idea, Stu. I talk from experience.
Ha! I know one thing about the voice in your head, stool finger. He can't be all that smart if he wants to talk to you.
Don't you guys want to hear my idea? It's pretty good. Honestly!
Hey, stupid jerk! Will you do me a favor and shut the fuck up? Honestly, you just go on and on and on.
Yeah. I, for one, do not intend to take advice from a German in your head, Mr. Stuhlinger.
Probably best to just keep it to yourself, Stu. You sound like a damn crazy man.
Now moving on to Origins. It appears at some point in time they had wanted to make a village over where the church is, but of course, console limitations running out of time, they were unable to because we have this official concept art that has this nice, beautiful little village over near the church. And honestly, it's kind of a shame because the actual playable areas of Origins isn't as much when you think about it because it's mainly just like tank paths and actual paths to and from. So having a little village over there would have actually been pretty cool. And you know how there are cut signs for like the tank station and stuff? Well, we also had a couple other signs inside of the files that we never got to see, such as farmhouse, storage, which I'm just assuming was maybe another name for the workshop. And we had one for graveyard and main chamber. I'm assuming the graveyard would have been over by the church and the main chamber would have been right above Pack Punch. And also, someone went digging through the files and found Who's Who and Tombstone Soda. Just imagine for a sec, Who's Who on Origins. I think that would have been pretty fun, not gonna lie. And I really couldn't find much on Origins, so the last thing that I could find was this Samantha quote when she's talking about drops that says, mystery.
Mystery.
Who knows what mystery would have been? I think it maybe would have been something very similar to like the QED, how it just gives you something random. But that quote is all we really have to go off of. So as we round the corner towards the end of this video, let's talk about DLC 5. Yes, Black Ops 2 was meant to have a DLC 5, and it might have been in two parts. We might have had a first part that would have had all the World at War ones, and then we would have had even more Black Ops 1 maps also remastered. It would have came out during COD Ghost's cycle, but Activision was like, 9? We're axing that. Apparently, footage out there does exist of people booting up the maps, but they're not, you know, the fully completed maps. They're only sections of the maps in Black Ops 2. And I actually found these pictures of Verrückt and Der Riese that were found in the Black Ops 2 files. And it seemed like the maps for World at War were also going to be remakes. That Verrückt was allegedly going to have its own Pack Punch machine over near Power. And it seems like the reason we got the Giant for Black Ops 3 was because Treyarch had already put in some of this effort to get Der Riese into Black Ops 2 that they just said, fuck it, and then just pushed the Giant onto Black Ops 3. And also, listen, I'm not a pro at going through the code or anything, but I did have some of my mods look through some Black Ops 2 code, and again, we're all borderline retarded. But we did find a lot of code relating to the Cosmonaut, so maybe this was related to Transit and the Easter egg scenario, or maybe this was related to the Moon Remastered for Black Ops 2. I don't know, but there was a lot of Black Ops 1 files that were just in Black Ops 2 because it was built off Black Ops 1, so maybe this was just some leftover stuff that they never took out. I don't know, I'm not smart when it comes to this stuff, I'm just smart at presenting it and giving it to you guys. But yes, Black Ops 2 was going to have a DLC 5, and it kind of sucks that it didn't get it, but we eventually did get it all for Black Ops 3, so it evens out in the end. And just a couple more things that I ended up finding around on the interwebs. Allegedly, the Thunder Gun and the Mark II were going to be on Transit. I couldn't find any proof of that. This is just something that people are saying. There was a lot of Black Ops 1 weapons in the files. Again, there was a lot of Black Ops 1 leftovers for Black Ops 2, but some of the more notable ones were the Spaz, the Dragunov, the Sabretooth, and Bouncing Bettys, and the Commando at some point in time. And lastly, here are a bunch of pre-alpha menus for Black Ops 2. And again, if you have that Black Ops 2 footage, for the love of God, send it to me. I want to see Transit. What could have been of Transit? I need to see it. Now, there's a couple things that I missed in the previous game, so thanks to JB Shady for actually pointing all this out and giving me this footage. We actually have more footage of the original turned game mode that was all the way back in World at War. And I'm not gonna lie, I could be getting bamboozled here, but this looks awesome.
Enemy movement!
And last but not least, I have no idea how I didn't get this, but there was a cut radio in World at War Der Riese, and I guess I've just heard this radio so many times that I just never thought anything about it.
Gentlemen, allow me to take this opportunity to welcome you to Group 935. This is a prestigious moment in the history of our race. You represent the future of technological advancement. You are the pioneers of human discovery. In your hands lies the destiny of mankind. In our hands is a great power, and with that power comes a price. You have volunteered to be part of this great experiment, and with that decision comes the responsibility of absolute secrecy. No one is to know what you do, where you work, what our research has uncovered, or what our purpose will be. You will have no further contact with your governments or with your families. Your decision to fully dedicate your lives to Group 935 is absolute. In your lockers, you will find your Field Ops Manual, which will direct you should our manifesto get compromised. We cannot afford to let this power fall into the wrong hands, and therefore the Field Ops Manual should be considered your Bible. Make your preparations now. A new dawn is beginning for mankind.
Originally cut from Black Ops 3 and brought back in Black Ops 4 was zombie difficulties. We originally were going to have 3 different modes called Survivor, Hunter, and Exterminator. But unfortunately this was only in the pre-alpha phase and was eventually axed, but it seems like they did bring something very similar to this back for Black Ops 4. And also in Black Ops 3 Zombies, we were going to be able to do some customizations for our characters. Unlocked through gaining XPs, we were going to be able to change a lot of the outfits for our characters, which I think would have been pretty cool, but ultimately I'm kind of glad they cut. I don't really think they needed to waste their time on this because I know I would have never used it. The icons for the Primus crew are their Black Ops 2 renders, and the icons for the Shadows of Evil characters were taken from concept art. And the thing that I think is interesting about this is it doesn't seem like they had Nero's first name at this point, or maybe they just were actually going to go by his last name, because in this image he is just referred to as Blackstone, and I'm kind of glad they did change it to Nero eventually. Blackstone just doesn't really fit. I know that's his last name, but it just doesn't really, Nero just rolls off the tongue a lot better. Now, there's also tons of cut Gobblegum for Black Ops 3, and there's probably way more than the ones I'm about to give you, but these are just the ones I could find. We have Brainiac, Center of Attention, Firestarter, Melee Master, Toxic Vindicator, Private Eye, Fire and Forget, Power Trip, and Seasickness. And I think Seasickness might have been an earlier version of Projectile Vomiting. And a lot of these might have actually been remade into ones that we did eventually get throughout the course of the game, and some of them we may never ever see. Now, an earlier version of Liquid Divinium was called Let It Ride tokens, and this was in the pre-alpha phase, and you were able to earn these very similar to Liquid Divinium by just exploring zombie maps, and they were redeemable for Mega Chew Bubble Blast, which was the earlier version of Gobblegum, and my god, am I so glad they changed it, because Let It Ride tokens just sounds dumb as hell. I think of like Borderlands 2, and Mega Chew Bubble Blast is a mouthful. I'm so glad they decided to call it Gobblegums. I do not want to be like, hey guys, where's the Mega Chew Bubble Blast machine? That's just too much. There was also a cut perk that I really couldn't find much information about called Liquidity. That's all I got. I couldn't find anything else about it that was 100% accurate. A bunch of speculation and everything like that, but nothing concrete. There was also supposedly a cut alternate ammo called Honey Business, which seemed to be similar to the multiplayer Beast specialist weapon, but I really couldn't find much information about this. Now, similar to every other zombie game, there were tons of cut weapons. Now, these weapons weren't really cut from zombies as much as they were just from the regular game. So these could have been cut from the cut campaign or from multiplayer, and then maybe at some point in time they would have been in zombies, but since they were cut, we'll never get to see them. One of them is the M27, and to me, I think the M27 was just used as a base model for the ICR, and there's a lot of content carried over from Black Ops 2 because they tend to do that a lot. So you're going to see a lot of Black Ops 2 weapons on this list. But one of the more interesting cut weapons was the MCAS, which was a scrapped assault rifle with a hybrid mechanic, so you could swap between the assault rifle and the submachine gun. Now, I think this would have been a really cool weapon to pack a punch and play around with in zombies, but unfortunately, we'll never get it. There was also a gun called the Robot Gun, which was a scrapped assault rifle with a default pink texture and a KN-44 magazine, but this was cut very, very early in development. And like I said, we also have tons of Black Ops 2 weapons. We got the MP7, the Type 27, the SWAT 556, the FAL, the Remington 870, which could have been used for testing for the KRM, the Cap 40, lots of Black Ops 2 stuff. There was also a scrapped pistol called the Patriot, but other than that, couldn't really find much information about that. We also had a couple cut launchers, a lock-on rocket launcher called the Chaser, a regular rocket launcher called the SMAW, and also an EMP launcher, which I think would have been very interesting in zombies. I mean, hell, we had the EMP grenade, so why not have an EMP launcher? Let's see what we can do. And there's also an earlier version of the KN-44, but they eventually changed that to the KN-44. Now, Zombies has plenty of cut Easter eggs, and one of the more infamous ones is the Shadows of Evil Apothicon Servant upgrade quest. Originally, for like the first week or two, you technically could pack-a-punch this by using a glitch, so it was possible to pack-a-punch this, but they very, very quickly patched that out. And that left the community scrambling to find the Easter egg steps that were sadly not available in-game. But the cut Easter egg goes a little bit something like this. Once you get the Apothicon Servant, you're going to have to get 40 kills using it. And once you get 40 kills, you walk around the map, and the Apothicon Servant is going to kind of act like a sensor. And once you get next to one of the 15 random locations, the sensor is going to go off. And once you get close to one of the locations, the Apothicon Servant is kind of going to act like a metal detector, and you're going to walk around and try to find exactly where you need to go. And once you get to the desired location, you're going to see a prompt that's going to say, hold button to hang cocoon, and you're going to hang the cocoon. And once you have hung the cocoon, all you have to do is progress to the next round. And once you do that, all you have to do is go up to the cocoon, open it, and you're going to be given your free upgraded Apothicon Servant. And the Apothicon Servant would have had a unique name for each of the characters in Shadows of Evil, so none of them would have had the same exact one. But unfortunately, this Easter egg was hidden away for God knows why. Also in Shadows of Evil, there was a cut Little Arnie Easter egg. So everybody knows that you get Little Arnies through the box and you can do an Easter egg to upgrade them. Well, originally that wasn't the case. Originally, you were meant to do an Easter egg to get the Little Arnies, and it would have went something like this. Originally, when you spawn in on the map, there are going to be keeper jars randomly around the map in each district. And then once you obtained the keeper jar, you would have had to complete some sort of task or objective to get the magic keeper jar. And then once you have done that, you get one chance per round to capture a Little Arnie. It would have went something like this. The district would have been chosen at random, and there would have been 2 points within said district chosen at random. And once those locations have been chosen, a unique audio file will play for a short period as the player gets near it. And then you would have seen a Little Arnie dashing and scurrying as said by the developers, and all you would have had to do to capture would have been to get into close proximity of it and then interact with it to put it in the jar. Now this sounds really cool and everything, but you would have only had one use. Once you would have thrown it, the jar would have broke and the Little Arnie would have escaped, and to use it again, you would have had to go to the next round and capture a Little Arnie again. And that just sounds like a huge pain in the ass, and I'm kind of glad they cut that. I much prefer the Monkey Bomb style Little Arnies than this. Also another cut Easter egg was the chicken Easter egg. Now this has been known for quite some time, but in Revelations there was going to be a quote-unquote chicken bait Easter egg. This would have been a very similar Easter egg to the spider bait in Zetsubo no Shimo. We even have the HUD icon and some cut audio which was found in the Revelations files. Now those files are very similar to the ones from Dead Ops, but were also specifically put in the Revelations files. So it appears this Easter egg would have been a mixture between the spider bait from Zetsubo no Shima and the actual chicken that you play as in Dead Ops Arcade. Why this was cut, we will never know, but I think it would have been pretty funny to run around the map as a chicken. Whether you're a big chicken or a small chicken, it still would have been pretty damn funny. Now, Shadows of Evil had a couple things at launch that I think were very quickly patched out, so technically this is going to be cut content. Originally, Shadows of Evil, I think I remember this too, was going to be a little bit harder. Zombies were going to start to run and sprint at round 2 instead of like, what is it, 5 now? And also, I very faintly remember this, but I'm pretty sure this was a thing before they patched it. All the Margwa's mouths could be open at once. So as we know Margwa's now, only one mouth is open at a time. But originally, I believe that more than one could be open at a time, but they very quickly patched that out. And also, I thought I was going crazy when I saw this. Originally, there were like custom max ammo symbols that would appear when you got drops, and I could have swore for the longest time, like Mandela effect, that this was a thing, but I just never saw it ever again, so I just didn't think much of it. But as I was doing this video, I found this stuff, and I was like, yeah, I do remember that when Shadows of Evil launched, but for some reason they took it out. Now, I'm pretty sure all this was originally in the game. Now, I could just be going crazy, but I'm more than positive this was all available at launch, but very quickly patched out. Another thing that was at launch but eventually patched out was the original way the Gobblegum machine worked. Originally, there was only going to be one active machine around the map and it would switch locations like the mystery box. But as of the March 21st, 2016 update, the Gobblegum machine is going to be everywhere and activated at all times. Heading back to Revelations, we also have some cut announcer quotes from Dr. Monty and the Shadow Man.
Carpenter. Double points. Fire sale. Insta-kill. Minigun. Kaboom. Max ammo. Bonus points.
Fire sale. Insta-kill. Minigun. Kaboom. Max ammo. Bonus points. Carpenter. Double points.
Now, there are tons of rumors about a mega Easter egg and everything like that, and an alternate ending in Revelations, and I couldn't really find any actual good evidence to support any of that, so we really can only speculate on how these announcer quotes would have played out. Another pretty cool thing was a cut camo that says, "Now you see me, now you don't," all over it, and this camo, honestly, I think would have been very, very similar to some of the camos that we saw in like Black Ops 4, with how they like move all over the gun and everything, but unfortunately, we never got to see this camo. Another thing that I found while snooping around was originally Galvanuckles were supposed to appear on Der Eisendrache, but for some reason were cut. And I think that's a damn shame. Imagine using Galvanuckles against the Panzer when they spawn and it being like a one hit. That would have been pretty badass. But now that I'm thinking about it, it also would have made the plunger like irrelevant. so maybe it's a good reason they did take it out. And also, as I was searching around for pre-alpha builds of all the maps, I found tons of pre-alpha images of all the maps, and honestly, really the biggest takeaway that I could get from looking through all these images is that Treyarch really played around with where exactly they wanted all the perks and all the mystery box locations to go. They had a general idea of where they wanted these to go, but looking through a lot of these images, you can see that they were definitely playing around and putting the perk machines in totally different places. And I mean, you could spend all day talking about these pre-alphas and all the minor things that they changed, but I really didn't see anything too big or too glaring that they happened to change. Also in Shadows of Evil, there was a bunch of dialogue, which I don't think was ever actually used in the game, of all of the characters sounding a lot like zombies and making a lot of zombie sounds. In Revelations, there are some scripts that relate to a rocket panel and repairing the rocket, and also pack-a-punching the summoning key and putting the summoning key in the rocket. So maybe there was a whole unused side quest where you could upgrade the summoning key, or maybe originally there were a couple extra steps to the main Easter egg, but they decided to cut it out. We might have had a whole new area from Der Eisendrache, or maybe the Ascension rocket, or maybe it was the rocket from the Kino der Toten Pack-a-Punch area. The only thing we really have going for us is this right here, and other than that, we really don't know much. Now, there's also a couple things that I missed in Black Ops 1. I know, shocking, right? I wrote down somewhere that there was a cut trap on Ascension, but I could not for the life of me find the evidence. I had the link somewhere and then I lost it. But apparently there was a cut trap on Ascension. I couldn't find much more information about it, but there was a cut trap somewhere on Ascension. Also, 5's cutscene was originally going to be a little bit longer, and Rizzo actually made a very good video compiling all the audios and adding his own video. So the video itself is not actual cut content, just the audio, but he added the video to make it much more enjoyable and watchable. So here you go.
I said are certain to miss the future.
Coño, I missed that.
Prime Minister Castro, this missile crisis was the last straw. We almost blew ourselves up. Now, we invited you here today...
In good faith.
In good faith. To sort this thing out.
And why is he here? He lost!
As I always say, forgive your enemies, but remember their names.
What was that?
Just a storm, Dick. Sit down. Now, gentlemen, as I like to think, in the long history of the world, there are only a few generations that are granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it.
Sounds like someone breaking in! Oh my God!
It appears the Pentagon has been breached. We are under attack by legions of the undead.
Zombies. Gentlemen, at times like these, our capacity for retaliation must be and has to be massive to deter all forms of aggression.
No! Glorioso!
Gentlemen, lock and load.
Viva la revolución!
Any last words, Mr. President?
Yes, Jack. Any superlative words of inspiration for our humble troops?
Do not pray for easy lives, my friends. Pray to be stronger men.
Also, allegedly on Moon, couldn't really find much evidence besides people saying it. There was going to be a fire trap in the biodome, and also there would have been more excavators and more ways to control them and play around with them. That one would have been a lot better. I wish there was more ways to control the excavators and use them and stop them from going to certain tunnels, but you get what you get. Also in Moon, it seems like the Zap Gun / Wave Gun would have had a different color scheme. It seems like it would have been more green. Going by this old school Resurrection trailer from way back in the day, they might have definitely been playing around with the whole color scheme before we got the red and blue one that we know now today. So that is going to be the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And quick shout out to my beloved Patreons. We got Brian Hahn, Person, Dirty Dan, Fat Lucky Potato, Icy Storm, B-Rad the Man, Giovanni Diaz, Jorge Burgos, Dr. Dopey, Mayall, G-Daddy Smackdown, Forg, Mr. Ridgeway, and Henry Heiberg. Shout out to my Patreons. They are literally better than everybody else. So that is going to be the video. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic holiday. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.